a couple of weeks now, I think a few weeks ago, the picture of Mr. Easy, Temi, Ajibade's wedding was everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. The pictures is nice, the pictures is great. Everybody, they even docked out the photographer, Sevilla. And the first thing people went to was the price, $50,000. Can any Nigerian photographer do this? Can any Nigerian photographer do that? Some other person was actually saying, who is the Nigerian photographer equivalent of David Sevilla? I'm like, what? You guys don't really understand, but that's not the part I want to talk about. The part I want to talk about is how people get to build their brand that gets them to command such a fee. Because you need to understand that it's not every photographer that can command that kind of fee. Not necessarily because their photographs are not good. Not necessarily because their technical skill is not at that level. But you would accept with me that there are photographers that you know that when you look at your work, you're like, this is so good. They have the best kind of lighting setups. Their photographs are clean. They are crisp. They look good. Their storytelling is great. Their framing, composition, the use of colors, lines, all those visual elements and visual languages, right? They are good communicators when it comes to visual communication. But it doesn't just translate into the money, right? And you're thinking, how can someone be this good, but far, 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 far from what he or she should be able to charge? So that brings me to what I want to talk about today. I need you to understand that when we talk about value, I think I've done several videos about the idea of and the concept of value when I spoke about the use value, the exchange value, and the symbolic value. So today I want to get you to where you understand why people pay such amount of money for some things. And it has to do with the symbolic value. So I'm trying to open this. What is this? Okay. So, permit my board. So this is symbolic value. This is what is responsible for people getting their kind of amount of money that they want. So if you want a refresher, I would link a video up here where you could see where I explain the different kinds of value, the use value, the exchange value, and the symbolic value. Right here, you could see it. But for this particular video, it's about you getting your photography to that point where you can charge that amount of money. And I need you to understand that it is the symbolic value that is responsible for that. And when we talk about symbolic value, there's another concept I want to introduce to you today. It's called the concept of conspicuous consumption. Right? It's really, don't want to bring you into human psychology and all of those kind of things, right? But I want to explain to you in basic terms what conspicuous consumption, that concept really means. It's about the fact that there are people who buy things, there are people who use things, there are people who purchase things, not because of what they want to use that thing for, but because of what they want to show the rest of the people when the people see them with that thing. I'll say it again. Conspicuous consumption is a concept that happens to deal with the reason people buy things, not for what that thing would do for them. That is not for the use value of that thing. The use value is something that, okay, for this microphone, the use value of this microphone is for me to actually speak into it and it amplifies my voice so that you watching this can hear. That's the use value of this. But the point is that you need to understand that they are cheaper mics than the one I'm holding right now, which can still do the same thing when it comes to the use value. But the idea is that there are some other mics that are costly and people buy it because if they use it and other people look at them and see it, they would look at them differently. So the idea of conspicuous consumption is that I buy things not for the use that I want to use it for, but to show off to other people, to signal other people. So when we talk about that, we are looking at things like status, right? You are signaling your status. Oh, I am this kind of guy. Nigerians have something that is very, very, very peculiar to us. We used to call it, I better pass my neighbor, right? So is a small generating set that you don't need a lot of petrol, you don't need a lot of PMS to actually put it on and power some things in your house when the light goes out. So not everybody at that point could afford to have a generating set. So when that smaller one came out, people used to call it, I better pass my neighbor. That means I'm better than my neighbor. And you would think to yourself, like, why would you name something that is supposed to give you power for your house? I better pass my neighbor. If it is not for you to show off to the other person. Do you get what I'm saying? So, they buy these things for status. They buy these things for affiliations. Affiliations is like, we do things like this. So when I see somebody do something, and maybe the person is my friend, is my colleague at work, it's somebody that belongs to maybe the same social strata like me, I'm like, if he did it, I should. So people buy cameras because their colleagues bought this kind of camera. People buy cars because of that reason. So that is what this conspicuous consumption is talking about. That people would buy things because of the ability to use that thing to signal their status to another person. But the caveat here, which I want you to understand, follow me closely. I will also tie all of this to photography when I'm done. The caveat here is that if, let's say, this is, let me use this part. So let's say this is Mr. B, right? Mr. B buys something, and these are other people, right? Let's say other people around here. And he buys this particular camera in this case, right? The idea of conspicuous consumption will only work if these people recognizes the camera that he bought. If these people don't understand that this is costly, it doesn't make sense that he paid that much. Like photographers, all of us know that, okay, there is Nikon, there's Canon, there's Fujifilms, there is Panasonic, every other kind of stuff. But we also understand that there is Leica, right? Let's say Mr. B bought a Leica. If these other people are not photographers that understand the value of Leica, they will not look at him type of way, and he will not signal the status that he wanted, because these people only see this just as an ordinary camera. But if the people Mr. B is trying to signal to are photographers know the difference between a Canon and a Leica. Do you know that the Canon is for like $3,000, right? You can get a Canon. Do you also know that a Leica is for like $15,000? So when he buys the Leica, he's buying that if the photographer community looks at him, it signals his status. Because when it comes to Leica, Leica is not bought for its use value. People don't buy Leica just because they want to make photographs with it. They buy Leica as a trophy. It's a signal that I have arrived. That's why most of the time when you see the owners of Leica cameras, they always hang it on their neck. Have you ever seen someone have Canon and hang Canon on their neck? Have you ever seen someone have Nikon and hang it on their neck? But every single owner of Leica you would ever meet never puts it in the bag. They hang it on their neck, because by doing that, they are activating the concept of conspicuous consumption. So that the people that know what that is, when they look at them, they signal status to those people. Does that make sense? So, if the people here are not photographers, so they don't know the value of cameras, whether Mr. B hangs the Leica or carries it on his head, it will not mean anything to these people. So at the end of the day, for that concept of conspicuous consumption to really work, you need to show it in front of the people that are aware of what you're showing to them. So you now ask, so how do that now tie into Usevia, Mr. Easy's wedding pictures and all of that kind of stuff, right? Remember when I said that you can get any other camera for like $3,000 and this one is for $15,000? The thing is that if this $15,000 part will not give Mr. B status, Mr. B will not want to part with that amount of money for it. So when you look at that picture again, there is an overall, I was speaking with Babatunde earlier, I was telling him there's an overall feel to how that wedding was planned, how it was executed. And it only would be normal for you to see that the vendors that was used, whether it was the hairstylist, the designer, the stylist themselves, the photographer, the videographer, they have to fit into the theme of what that particular wedding was about. Think about a wedding that was done in 3 places. That was done in Dubai, that was done in Monaco, and was done in Iceland. It shows you the level of sophistication, the level of plan that got into it, and the level of the word. I know Nigerians play a lot with the word luxury, but when you want to define luxury when it comes to wedding in the last year, you will mention that wedding. And for you to perfectly execute it, you need to collaborate with other vendors that play in that space. So that way, the other people that are looking at it will now be signaled. Nobody told Nigerian photographers not Nigerian photographers this way. Nobody told normal people on Twitter to go and look for Usevia's website. They did. Nobody told them to go and check his price. They did. And nobody now told them to come and use him to now compare to other people. They did. The whole goal of showing that we are not mates, right? There's this song that he said, I think in one of his songs, he said that 9 million for a house. He's not doing that to brag. It's just what it is right now because he has upgraded. When he said 9 million, this is 9 million naira, $9 million for a house. Do you get? So it needs to play in a certain space for all of that to hold true. Someone would say, wouldn't he have done for a Nigerian photographer that can do pictures? You need to understand that that wasn't only for photographs. It was for something else. And in as much as we are humans, we always try to deny the fact that we do things because of other people. People, even you're watching this video, you know why when you go to, let's say, unprovoked, you go to a restaurant to eat, you pull out your MacBook. But remember when you used to use a Windows system, you never pulled it out. You never pulled it out. So you're not pulling it out because necessarily if you do not work in those 2 hours that you're in that cafe, that you're not going to meet deadlines. Of course, that's not what you're doing. You're doing it, you're signaling people around you to know that, oh, you're this kind of photographer that uses a MacBook. That's because the people that built that brand, the Apple brand, paid specific attention not to the use value, not to the exchange value, but to the symbolic value, how you can use it to signal the next person. So that's why you're always going to pay premium for Apple brands. whether it's their smartwatches or their new iPhone 17. Because if you look at it technically, when it comes to the use, of course, Samsung makes better phones than them. Are you talking about the cameras? Are you talking about the long-range zoom cameras? Of course, Samsung makes better phones. Google Pixel make better phones. But you know what will always be status signaling? It will always going to be an Apple product. Because they have built into the core of that brand status. And that is what everybody, the fanboys and fangirls, are rallying around and using that to now say, have you not heard people say, oh, they took a picture and they wanted to share, and I said, oh, on your airdrop, oh, you don't have an airdrop, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Do you get? What does that mean? Whereas you know there are other ways of sending files to people on their phones, whether they have airdrops or not. But they are using things to show status. So at the end of the day, if you're looking to raise the price, you need to understand a few things. Number one, how can that thing that you sell help the person that you want them to buy increase or signal a new status? Number two, what is that thing that you're trying to sell that will help them to feel a sense of belonging, which is affiliations? Because when it comes to selling things in a high price, you need to make people feel two things: status, affiliations. Once they cannot say, we belong to this kind of group, or they cannot say, you are not like us. In as much as they lie, they tell themselves, oh, I'm doing this because of this. Deep down, they know. Let's look at the weddings. Most of the people in the wedding space, they want to pay a little more or hire a better photographer than their friends did for their wedding, because they want to use their photographers to brag. I always tell this example: if you built this conspicuous consumption into your brand, the brides will not be telling their friends, oh, I hired a wedding photographer. They will mention your name. Think about the top wedding photographers in Nigeria. They don't say, oh, I hired a photographer. They say, I hired Beach. Because by mentioning his name, you are giving yourself status. So until you're able to build status into what you do so that people can use you to brag, they are not going to be willing to part with some money just for you pictures. Because come of it now, pictures, anybody can shoot it. People can make photographs. That's the easiest thing to do. Once you get your camera right, you know the right lighting with the retouching softwares that are available now. You can do it. You can even generate backdrops that were not there, generate backgrounds that were not there, fix things that were not there. So it's not a hard thing to make great photographs, but it's a hard thing to be that person that people can use you to brag. So if they said we use David Usevia, you need to understand that Usevia is someone that can give people status. Go and look at him now. He's top 5 in the world. So you're not playing people that are trying to get their pictures on Bella Niger, with all due respect to Bella Niger. But it is what it is. These are people that get their pictures straight up to Vogue, straight up to Bright magazines. Do you understand? So the person knows that when I hire this person, this is what I'm getting at the other end. It is not the pictures, it's that my pictures will be on Vogue. It's not the pictures, it's that my pictures will be on Bright magazine, which will now enhance their status. Because if not, is your pictures featured on Vogue? It's not. Has your picture been featured on Bright magazine? It's not. It's not everybody's pictures that is on that stuff. So you need to understand that if you do not have that leverage, it might be near impossible for you to command a certain price consistently. So yeah, why should you do it? Because we are in this game to make a lot of money. It is good that you spend your money to learn the technical skill, spend your money to learn how to retouch, how to light, how to photograph, composition, and all of that. But it will be a greater reward that people then hire you and pay you money that suits your skill. But that's not going to happen because of the skill, the technical skill alone. You need to do something else. When can you start it? Yesterday. The best next time is right now. You need to think about this business that I'm building, this photography business that I'm building, whether it's in the wedding space, in the portraiture space, in the event space. What do people in that space consider as status? What do those people consider as affiliation? How can I bring those things into the thing I do? So when they look at what I do, they can identify it. They will want to be associated with it, because at the end of the day, it's about associations and pairings. When you think about a photographer, you associate them to something and you pay them to something. So once you are being associated and being paid to something, and that thing has to do with status, it is easier for them to part with money, because what they are getting is more than photographs. They are getting something else. The ability to say, in the Nigerian parlance, abata pass my neighbor. So I'm not sure this is going to be a very long video. I don't know how many minutes it is, but I want you to think about it, because everybody wants the big buck. Everybody wants the big clients. Everybody wants the villa money. Everybody wants the beige money. Everybody wants the big age money. But at the end of the day, the question is, can what you do give your client status, or can it give your clients affiliation? If you're new here, this is what I do every Friday. Drop videos like this. I can help you build profitable businesses. So go watch the other ones like I mentioned. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section. Of course, you can book for a one-on-one. Let's talk and see how we can get your business to the next level. Thank you for watching this one. Please share it with your friends. He says hi. And he will come and comment in the video so you guys will know him. And yes, see you in the other one. Thank you.